Hi everybody, this is Hero from the Birds. We're back with another Shadowlands video. We're taking a look at Holy Paladin in 9.2 PTR. We're checking out all the different things, lots of cool options and ideas coming into our minds, strategies that we might be, shaking things up a bit, taking a look at new talents and all that kind of stuff. And oh, look at here, we got Avenging Crusader. Oh, shut down the channel. Just unsubscribe or whatever you need to do, because yes, we're talking about an Avenging Crusader build. Close your eyes, run away. No, 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 no. Stay a little bit and listen. Just for a minute. Just for a minute. Okay. So, Avenging Crusader is kind of a meme, and for good reason. Any talent that absorbs another ability and replaces it is almost always a bad talent, or a giant debate, because the other talents in the row have to be really, really, really bad for you to take an ability you already have and add another one, but instead of adding the other one, you take this one away and give somebody something else. Now, in this case, historically, Avenging Crusader is in a worse spot because some cooldowns that get replaced are kind of mediocre, and then the talent really buffs it, and it's great. But, guys, Avenging Wrath, all by itself, is really, really quite good. Look at what Avenging Wrath gives us. 30% crit, 30% damage, 30% healing, just right across the board, and for 25 seconds. Avenging Crusader takes that all away. It gives you 30% increased Crusader strike damage, judgment damage, and, auto attack damage. But it takes the 30% damage profile for everything else and shows it in the garbage can. And then it says Crusader strike and judgment cool down 30% faster. Okay, that's interesting. And they heal up to 3 injured allies for 250% of the damage they deal. It lasts 20 seconds. So minus 5 seconds on the duration, but we are getting, out of 2 of our abilities, Crusader Strike and Judgment, a healing profile being added to those abilities. And it cleaves, so it hits 3 targets. Now, here's one of the things that's a little bit interesting about the potential for things like Avenging Crusader, and this is why it actually has been at a floor really bad as a talent. Remember, like damage spikes, any boss that gives you a damage amp ability, something like Avenging Crusader can sneak into those moments and really puzzle everybody, because maybe you're at Sludge Fist and he hits the pillar and you come up, press Avenging Crusader and throw Judgment, and it hits good old Sludge Fist for, I don't know, 50,000 damage or something because of the bonus or whatever the number ends up being. Suddenly, your Avenging Crusader healing goes completely off the charts for about 10 or 15 seconds. I mean, most of the time it's wasted. It doesn't really do anything because you've got all the other healers doing their work. But it's these kinds of outliers and potentials. What is it? The Huntsman adds in Castle Nathria also, when one of his doggos is about to die, or there's a vulnerability moment for it. Also, something like Avenging Crusader leaves that damage and potentially would show up in your healing. So it's things like this that the Avenging Crusader looks to take advantage of, and that's why they've probably made it such a bad talent in general. I'm not actually advocating for it in this. I'm just trying to talk to you about some of the options and why I'm taking a look at it as we go into 9.2. Now, as we take a look here at some of the testing I've done, I just want to make a disclaimer. If you look at this video as evidence why Avenging Crusader should be used, you're looking at it the wrong way. We're just kind of doing some testing. We're just messing around. Judgment, Crusader Strike, they essentially do the same damage. You can see I have about 40 casts of Crusader Strike. I have about 16 casts of Judgment. All of this is going to be multiplied by 2.5. On average, your Judgment hits for about 4,000 in this kind of gear, and Crusader Strike is hitting for around 2. I'm bumping those numbers up a little bit, but you get the idea. Let's just use basic numbers. And since we press Crusader Strike about twice as often, you can essentially look at these as being equivalent. Hitting your Crusader Strike twice in a row and then Judgment, it's going to do around the same amount of throughput. So if we take the number 2,000 as a baseline, and we're sitting in like 260-ish gear, what does that mean? Well, 2,000 times 2.5 is 5,000 healing that goes out to one target. So 15,000 healing every time you press Crusader Strike while you are within Avenging Crusader. Okay. 15,000 from, well, the Judgment's about 30,000 healing that goes out because you double that number. So 15,000 from the Crusader Strike, 30,000 from the Judgment every time you press these abilities. So that's actually an interesting amount. So 15,000 is about probably going to be about a quarter of a health pool, I'm guessing. Probably maybe a little bit more early on. I have about 60,000 health as a Holy Paladin in 265 gear, and 30,000 is about half of my health pool. So a Judgment is going to hit, on average, about half of your health pool. It's hitting 3 different targets for that amount. Now, I mean, as I talk, you can just sense in your mind, this cannot be worth it. There's no way this can be worth it. And you're probably right. But one of the things that's interesting, and the reason why I was doing some of this testing, and I'll show you a video of me taking a look at it, is because our 4-piece allows us to cool down Avenging Wrath by 2 seconds for each of the targets that we hit. This means essentially, and I haven't had a chance to test it as rigorously as I'd like because I haven't had all the targets that I'd wanted, and I hadn't had a situation where people were dying to check the Avenging Crusader healing. This means you can probably get Avenging Crusader 100% uptime. Now, I think the only way to do it right now is with Kyrian and Divine Purpose, because Seraphim kind of sucks up a GCD that we need, and Light of Dawn cast, so it costs us 3. Holy Avenger, we can definitely do it, but then we have a huge valley on the back end, meaning that for the portion that Holy Avenger's up, we can make sure we're in that window, but when it's down, we will have gaps in our Avenging Crusader uptime. Crusader's Might is kind of irrelevant. I think Glimmer of Light and Beacon of Faith are slightly irrelevant here, but I think Faith is probably better because you can spread out more of the, you can cleave more of the healing onto your tanks. It'll be overkill to do it the other way. And then the reason I think Kyrian is the only way to do it is because we sort of need holy power generation. So I'm going to talk a little bit more as I put the video on for you of me in Borealis trying to find 4 or 5 targets to hit with my Light of Dawns. As a disclaimer, I'm using Shadowbreaker as the other legendary, and the only reason I'm doing that is because I literally need to hit people with my Light of Dawn in order to make the test somewhat reasonable, or the testing environment actually makes sense. In reality, you could probably use a number of legendaries. I think the best one might be the one that cools down, or excuse me, lowers the cost of holy power spenders from Judgment, and that's probably just because that's the weak point or the bottleneck for this ability. We need something like the Magistrate's Judgment to allow us to get a few more Light of Dawn casts out in general. Anyways, it's kind of an interesting idea, and I don't think it's actually good. Like, if we can get 100% uptime on wings, why wouldn't we just take wings? Why mess around with Avenging Crusader? And the answer I always give to these kinds of queries is, well, we're here. It's because we can, you know? The mountain is there. Why did you climb it? Because I could. And I think it's going to be interesting. I'll do some more testing when I can actually get into a raid environment and see what kind of throughput you get out of AC. Because, and here I'm testing, I'm just doing the testing as a Night Fae, because I was just saying maybe we get the CDR, that helps us out. You know, you can simp for people with your Blessing of Summer, that kind of stuff, but I think that didn't really work out as far as getting all the way around to Avenging Crusader. But you can see the basic idea of getting Crusader going, and here goes the Crusader Strikes, healing me. The Judgment, boop, there goes my health, just zipping up there. If you have enough haste, you probably also have an opportunity to make use of this idea, but I wanted to just signal for you guys, now that we have access to things like 100% uptime, unless they change it, which they may, abilities like these sleeper abilities, Avenging Crusader, that you've never touched for a long time, suddenly start to look interesting. Abilities like Seraphim in in a loadout that gives us a ton of holy power, so excess holy power where Light of Dawns aren't such a big deal. So if you were playing, say, Necrolord, Holy Paladin, something like Seraphim actually becomes interesting because you're spending a whole bunch of wogs that produce Light of Dawns, and therefore Awakening is more likely to proc anyways and give us a significant amount of uptime on Avenging Wrath. So we can afford to spend some of our holy power on Seraphim. So maybe that's becomes interesting. I mean, again, I think Divine Purpose Awakening is excellent. Like, don't get me wrong. But here is the chance for us to do some testing. So this is the first iteration. I just wanted to get the proof of concept, the build on the stack so that you can see it. Maybe I'll just go back here and take a look. There's some healing numbers on this test. Yeah, you can see here, this is the healing it produced from three hits of Avenging Crusader. That's 3 casts of, I guess this must be Judgment that's producing this much healing. You can see obviously it overhealed like crazy. Anyways, something to look forward to. It might be that the Avenging Crusader scaling is just excellent, and as we get going in the expansion and get lots of haste, we can definitely keep 100% uptime. Looking forward to testing it out. Just thought I'd flag it for you guys here. Hope you enjoyed the video. We'll catch you again next time.